so happy to introduce Celerie Kemble this morning. Celerie and I have actually known each other since her days at Henredon, which seems so long ago, doesn't it? It does. Kemble Interiors is a multi-generational firm with over 50 years of experience designing hotels, country clubs, and residential spaces with offices in New York and Palm Beach, good places. Her priority is always to express the personality and sentiment of her clients through gracious interiors. Never one to dismiss nuance or drama, she sensitively engages both forces to create dynamic and comfortable rooms. Celerie is the author of Island Whimsy, To Your Taste, and Black and White, and a little bit in between. She has also been included in Architectural Digest AD 100, House Beautiful Designers, Elle Decor's A-List Designers, and Lux's Gold List, among other notoriety magazines. Her current licensed product lines include fabrics, trims, and wallpaper for Schumacher, lighting and occasional furniture with Arteriors, outdoor furniture with Lane Venture, and in 2023, she launched a line of case goods for Woodbridge and upholstery with Taylor King. And she has 3 children. I'm very happy to introduce Celerie Kemble. We're just going to stand up here. So good to see you.
Nice to see you. And thank you all for having me here today. It's actually kind of intimidating to speak to a group that is already entirely professional in my own field. So.
Well, we're going to have at it anyway, so let's get to work, okay? So, your bio states that yours is a multi-generational design firm spanning more than 50 years. You're not that old, so I know there has to be more to this.
I am.
As we also have owners that have passed along their businesses to family, can you tell us about how your family influenced your joining the field of interior design?
Well, my mom is still working. She's the head of our company. She's now 76. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but she's not watching. And her influence was at first honestly repulsive because the last thing you want to do is turn into your mother. So I spent my childhood and teenage years thinking that what she did was exhausting and scattered into other areas of our life in a way that was inconvenient for me. Selfish child. And it's only because of sort of brushing into the family business that I really learned a whole other level of respect for my mom. I understood what's hard about what she does. I saw her ingenious solutions. I saw the way she brought a team together and how she handled all the lives that, bump into one another, the craftsmen, the artisans, the clients, and then the women who work in our decorating firm. And I think the lessons you are allowed to enjoy working with family have been such an extraordinary gift of sharing that with my mom. So that happened by mistake, honestly. But I think family businesses give something to family that, it's like the most complicated relationship you might have other than your marriage. But it's a really exciting and dynamic place to share knowledge of one another and build something.
Did she encourage you to get into the business, or it was osmosis?
I think her encouragement was in demanding that we pay attention to beautiful things and to making that a part of our leisure life. We would travel, and I think it was an inherent love of those things from her that I didn't realize it, but I was being given a visual education and a sense of what great design is historically, and I was being brought into houses that were really, I would say now, supremely successful in their design. And I think that gave me a baseline eye. I don't know that it was entirely intentional. I think she was also just trying to train us, as children. It was like, you do need to use your manners here. But that is definitely the backbone of my business, is perhaps the idea that I'm an authority of taste because I've been looking at good taste for 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have children, as I stated, so are you encouraging your children the same way, or do you see any of them getting into business as well?
I wish they'd work with me. There's no sign that they're interested yet, but they're still just teenage demons. I think they are aware that the environments in our home are special and they're proud of them. I see it when they bring their friends over, and my teenage daughter's friend was like posting Instagram pictures of my house, and I like that was one of the biggest honors. That's sort of bigger than a magazine publication because that made me feel like they were proud. So hopefully I can like slowly seduce them or trap them.
Are they girls or boys?
I had 2 boys and a girl, and I think my daughter's the easiest target.
Well, there are many in this room who have sort of inherited businesses from their families, and so they can certainly relate to what you're talking about as well. And you can also see from the room, there aren't too many males in this room that are
very
in
few.
business, so there's just a handful of us. But anyway, so obviously your family had influence on your career. What other outside influences influenced your design style through the years?
I think the biggest influence I've had has been the push from my clients. We're in a service business, so my job is to listen to what they want and figure out how to deliver to them what they want through the lens of what I think might be the most I can improve upon it with. And in the process, I've done things that I thought were ugly and I knew nothing about entire design styles. I still remember a client saying they loved Art Deco. It's like, this was the point where like I was researching it through books and I was kind of like, ugh. Everything I can find is a building, a lobby. How do I translate this to your, pretty little house? But the process of not knowing is what makes my curiosity about design. And at first, I always feel like an imposter, but then the research and the process of sort of tumbling together as rocks and the process of the home is what's fun.
So your clients have sort of pushed you into design styles? Is that what I'm hearing here?
Absolutely. Or their budgets force me to find new sources, or their sister-in-law's contractor, either is or isn't the best guy in the world. And I learned from the processes of approaching my lack of control, but desire to lead a project with my style, and whatever it is they're putting in as kind of the blocks and cubes in the crossword puzzle. And I come out changed every time.
How would you say your design style has evolved over the years? Do you find yourself like evolving, changing?
I've had different obsessions in design, and just listening, for a while it was trying to help everybody keep things performance level and perfect and being very concerned with endurance. Now I'm actually a lot more concerned with authenticity and finding things that will age well. And so I think that's, these like little paradigm shifts are huge because, I find myself saying, yes, this rattan furniture is real. It will die in 20 years if you leave it outside. But in the meantime, it's going to weather and look beautiful. I feel like that's a major shift. I also think that I've become more confident in the mixing of materials and furniture styles, mixing modern elements. I still cheat. I think it's easier to have modern art and traditional furniture than it is the other way. But I think the balance of what I'm working with and using, it's kind of the materials are the biggest change inside what I'm putting out to my clients.
Do you push your clients as far as design, or what is the influence your clients have on you when you're working with on a project? Do they give you ideas, and how many of those ideas and how do you take or do you use, and how do you handle that with them to give them what they want, but still you're the designer?
Well, this is the hardest part of my business, is trying to accommodate what they want, or at least promise that I'll do my best, but knowing the real constraints of timelines, shipping, durabilities, prices. So I think their budget is probably the biggest constraint. Their patience and their ability to be pleased is also the biggest indicator of how well I'm going to perform. I think everybody's probably had an unpleasable client, and then it's like you feel your battery draining, and eventually you're just like, well, how about this? You pick. So, I mean, they have enormous influence on my work, because once they've kind of put out my spark, then I'm just, sure. So clients are probably the biggest factor in how well.
Well, I think
something
most of
comes
the
out.
people in this room have met with those same restraints as far as budget is concerned, tough customers to please.
Or people who just want everything immediately, and then you're like, okay, this is all gonna have the same expiration date. It smells like 2 years ago already. It's hard to work that way.
Sure. Can you name a design style that you absolutely hate?
It's that. It's the expiration date all at once. It's like an alarm is gonna go off. You bought everything from the same source, and it was all built in the same 6-month period, and it arrived to please the same, trend moment, and then it goes off. So it would almost be the failure of a place so perfectly composed that it has one note. I call that the model apartment problem, where you have 6 weeks to get everything in. It has to look good in a picture, but there isn't a drop of soul. That's not a trend. That's just the worst pitfall, stylistically. Because I think all trends have aspects. I mean, I can like something even though I don't personally want to live that way. That's super minimal. I find it so sexy to go into a modern hotel that's all one surface. You're like, oh, I can be this for 2 days. Same with, sort of farmhouse modern, I feel, is the biggest trend of our time. And a lot of that has the expiration date problem, but I still appreciate it. I think it's charming and warm, and I'm drawn to it.
In what you do, is there a design style that you find yourself working with more often than not?
Yes, because it's my default comfort zone, and it's what people come to me for, which is an eclectic, traditional, very layered room. So perhaps even if that isn't a goal, by virtue of the tools I'm used to working with, I kind of try to nudge things in that direction, because I feel like that's the most exciting and dynamic room.
So in terms of design styles, in the area that you typically work, are they drawn to you for your design style?
Usually. I think that they've now seen work that's published, or they have a friend whose home I've decorated. But I do think I'm most pleased with my company's work and with my own work when I have clients who'll visit each other's houses and they don't realize that they're kind of birthed on the same table. Because that's what's fun, is not doing the same thing over and over again.
So your favorite design style, it would be traditional,
Somewhere
transitional?
between traditional and a kooky mess. I love the odd mixtures of forms, furniture styles, periods, even price points, because I think the more you get too much of one thing, when it becomes too strong and too consistent, it overwhelms the humanity. I've known some designers who describe their work, and this is a really interesting way to look at it. They'll say, oh, 20% of my work is custom, 50% is off-the-rack manufactured, and the other 30% is antique. And I'm like, oh, that sounds good. And then there are other people who say, 90% of my work is off-the-rack, immediately available, 10% is custom. And I'm like, wow, you have control over everything. I always want to push the needle. So there's a little bit more antique, found object, incorporated pieces from, different parts of life. Does that make sense? Like looking at a ratio of what is brand new, what fits perfectly, and then what's got a little whack.
So is some of this what they already have, or are you actually going to antique stores to look for antiques for them?
Unfortunately, sometimes it's what they already have.
Okay, there we go.
And usually that's like the splinter you can't get out. But
Grandma's old lamp you have to work with?
yeah, in a perfect world, it's antiques or vintage pieces, I find.
Is there a design style you absolutely hate working with, that you cringe every time that you think you might be working with that you just cringe?
Gosh, it's hard. I really honestly think I can have fun in any genre because maybe I now have the confidence to say, yes, we're doing that, and I'm going to do something a little different.
Okay.
But I'm
So you end up
happy.
pushing them, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, get them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, super contemporary makes me feel cold and my teeth ache. But that's personal. It could be an exciting challenge.
Sure.
I get derailed faster.
Tell us about your favorite design project.
My favorite project is all photographed in the book that you have,
Okay.
the signed copies of the book, which is a group of beach houses on the north coast of the Dominican Republic, which was a complete fantasy project because it was built for a group of investors who were friends and family, and they gave me full design control. I only had a client in my imagination, and I had a decent budget to do that the way I wanted. I was allowed to set the priorities. So that is easily, I think, the most exciting project I may ever get to work on in my life.
Did they didn't really push you on anything, or just
No, there were
loved
so
everything
many
you
of
did?
them, and they knew that if anybody started making demands, that it would take forever or it would turn into a scrum, fight. And they were trusting. They said, this is what you do, and you all kind of know each of us well enough. Just don't overspend, because there was nothing,
It's a guideline.
Yeah.
It really is.
But it was the most. It's the project I'm most proud of, and I feel like most emotionally connected to. I feel like I kind of got to invent a new vocabulary.
Oh, well, that's always fun.
Yeah.
So I've had designers tell me through the years that they wish they could only work with ideal clients. It sounds like you had one. Is that possible, and what would your ideal client look like, other than with lots of money?
Yeah, I was about to say the budget. The budget's a nice framework. Trust. It's what makes it work. When they give me the freedom or will allow the process to unfold in the way that I am comfortable with in terms of timeline, or letting me assess quality. It's very difficult when people are suspicious every step, because you really feel like this is back to this unpleasable idea. They're looking for the problem, and there's so many pieces that need to be put into this big puzzle. If you spend all your time talking about why this might not be right, you get 75 other pieces to find. It's too hard.
Yeah.
So trust, biggest one.
So how do you establish trust with your client?
Now I'm lucky because it's track record, and I also have to say thank you to my mother, because when you have a company that's been working for 50 years, we haven't been caught running away with anyone's money yet. We don't have, we've had clients who were unhappy, or we've been sued, but it always has worked out, and in general, our reputation is big enough that it supports our point of view. Also, the bigger than that is standing in front of somebody and speaking your truth. I think we're all very perceptive. You can feel when someone's hedging.
Sure.
And I think I've earned trust by becoming confident in my business and in my business decisions. So the better I can articulate what my priorities are. I think some of my best clients are the ones that are like, I can't read a floor plan, or I can't imagine what this is going to look like. So they watch me and they're like, you seem really excited, or you're a little tentative, what's the deal? And I think the people reading my confidence.
So your emotions are catching, aren't they? How you feel. If you're excited, they're excited.
Totally, and
If
this
you're-
is why when I feel like
Sure.
I'm under a microscope and somebody's trying to figure out how I'm going to fail, I start shrinking, and it gets more and more basic. I go for easy answers.
Sure. You have done both residential and commercial. Is there one you prefer?
Commercial is newer to me, so in a really weird way, I'm enjoying that more. I like the pragmatism of business-to-business solutions where somebody can say, these are our problems. There's more freedom in it in a weird way. And when we go through the slideshows, I'm actually using a commercial project. You'll see, because it's the easiest to show what we do, and I'm really liking it because it's new. I think if you were to take my private clients away from me, I would feel really starved. But the private client work is the hardest,
Yeah.
I think.
Do you find when you're working commercial, there's so many more rules and regulations and things you have to be concerned about?
There's a lot more I don't know, so I have to rely very heavily on the architects and the builders because we're dealing with code and traffic patterns, and I enjoy that. I actually think not knowing stuff makes it fun. Also, being able to offload the responsibility. It is nice when you have a professional working with you who knows more.
Now, have you taken on any commercial suppliers? All the ones you have right now are basically residential.
I push most of my commercial work through my residential suppliers.
Okay.
For instance, Schumacher, who I have my fabric lines with, will make any of their prints and modify them for me and put them on vinyls. And I feel very lucky to have these long relationships. I've been working with Woodbridge and Taylor King a ton in the last 2 years, and I'll show you in these pictures because they've been able to make furniture for me to the specifications that hold up to commercial use, but keep the furniture looking graceful and pretty and interesting. And I think I'm getting these commercial jobs because I start with the refined taste of a private home as the only end game. I like to think that our projects look like someone's house.
Ah, okay. So you're kind of adding that homey feeling to the project.
Definitely, because we still look at things and we think about the trim, the scale. We probably have 20 more patterns in one room than most commercial projects would, just because I think that's what makes a home interesting. I don't know how to do it the other way.
Mm-hmm. So you pretty much try to use the suppliers that you're an ambassador for or designer for as much as possible.
Well, they become tools I can rely on.
Sure.
So when it comes to upholstery now, I can draw something, a really bad sketch, and I know it will come out scaled in a more reasonable way than I might have foreseen, and will have seat cushions that sit like heaven. That's actually, when I went to see Taylor King's showroom, without any intention of looking for a licensing partner, I walked around the showroom, sat in a few things, and I was like, can I please talk to whoever is in charge here? I want to make furniture with you. And there's Dell over there. He was the guy in charge. He just wanted to go home. It was the last day of furniture market at like 6, and he was holding the key. And I caught him.
Well, he does have the key.
No, he was like literally going to be locking the showroom doors. So I lucked out.
Well, I know you have some slides you want to go through and tell us about some of your projects. So I know that at the beginning, we have a hotel project that you did. You have before and afters there, and then you have some residential.
Yep.
So,
And what's fun is the hotel project has furniture that was either antique or were the prototypes for a lot of the furniture I've made with Taylor King. So I can point out some details, and you can even go back and see a few things that the commercial is now informing my licensing, which is going to be used in residential projects. It's a really nice loop.
for some of your residential projects, what is your time frame when you're working with one client? What does that time frame usually look like?
I tell them that if we were making decisions tomorrow, if they know exactly what they want and they hand me the cash at this point, it would take 6 to 9 months to look 75% done. I think a real home takes at least 10 months to a year to look good. And for us, that means you have towels that are attractive and trays, and some of the things in your cupboards look as good as the things that are out for the photograph.
So it's not just the big stuff, it's the little things as well.
Yeah, I think, I want to go back and re-answer your question, what trend do you hate? I hate the word effortless. I hate everybody who tries to say design or entertainment or all this stuff should in any way be effortless. It's an act of graciousness. It's an act of real commitment in advance, thinking about these things. So the idea that that's even supposed to be the case is a disaster. So I don't know, you'll see as we look through pictures, I like a lot of stuff. It might horrify some of you, which is okay. But I hope you'll see in it that there's a lot of care and love, and that's, I think, what makes a good design firm is,
Care.
care.
Yeah. Well, we ready to show some slides? All right.
Sniffling. Oh, there's some right here I can see. You might have to push a button.
Duck your head. There we go.
Okay, so these are a
Give this-
hotel in, thank you.
Advance it.
In Connecticut, and if you look at the sort of mayonnaise-colored room, that was the before, and it was a wonderful, old, very traditional hotel that needed to be refreshed because the mayonnaise had turned. And we were tasked with making it feel lively and young, but still like a fun guest experience as opposed to a corporate hotel. So you're looking at the same corner where the pink chair is where the desk is. And this is sort of testament to the transformational power of paint and wallpaper and color. Just quick before and afters, like just very different vibe. I was looking for sort of Scandinavian garden and a little bit of an antique feeling. But here's the kook that I was talking about. That's me looking really lovely from behind, staring at a staircase, and then here's the same staircase over on the other side. Oh, am I? So this is, whoa. So this is a little sitting room, totally pretty and fine, but it needed to become a little fresher and sweeter and more modern. This is one of my favorite before and afters because the left side to me looks really somber and sad and catalog. And we lightened it up with trellis and mirror behind the trellis and vintage plates we found at a flea market and color. Again, mayonnaise. And then the most vivid yolk yellow. But this was all just paint. And some of the furniture pieces in here, if you look at the way left under the window, there's a wild fabric. That chair has now become the Bisger chair with Taylor King. It was an old Napoleon style. And the sofas, you can't see the legs, it's too hard, but you can see the leg in our Johann sofa out on the showroom floor.
That's amazing transformation. How did they feel about the color transformation here?
This was a trust case. There's a creative director who works with the Auberge Hotel Group named Kemper, and he was like, bringing you on to do your thing. And he had to rein us in every now and then, but, okay, mayonnaise, and, kind of old lady. And then this is where we get kooky. Those are old shaving mirrors and something I discovered in the project called tinsel art, which is reverse painted glass with like little pieces of essentially tinfoil and iglomaze mirroring they used to do to kind of brighten homes that had candlelight only. So some of this was authentic to Connecticut and like the sort of 1800s, early 1900s. And then some of the stuff is just junk.
So this hotel really had work done in a while, the way it looked. Maintenance really had gone bad.
They were 20 years due, but it was a really beloved hotel outside New York that was very well decorated. They had a series of big New York decorators do different rooms, and here, I'll show you some of the bedrooms. Again, old lady to fun and fresh, at least I think. This is the dining room that was adjacent to that other picture, and we brought in big murals and put lattice on the ceiling and tried to make it feel more like a garden. Oh, more. This was the bar, which was actually in pretty good shape. Everybody loved this bar, and we were at risk of being just run out of town because people didn't want their best place for a burger and a red wine to change. So we kept the feeling, and just added a little pattern and brightness and kept all the old chairs and tables. This is a case of transformation from something that people really adored. It was amazing to go to a hotel that had tassels and trims and silks, but it was starting to feel haunted. And so we took the same tools and just made it feel younger.
Yeah, you did a really nice job of maintaining the feel and the look of the room while changing it really dramatically.
Thank you. And that's also, I'm such a wallpaper addict that even when it's like a solid wall, that was a really pretty pale pink, not grass cloth, but when it's threads. So it just read very, very sort of tailored and soft. And the ottoman and the sofa are new to Taylor King now. And I'm also very reliant on comfortable upholstery. If you can't sit and watch TV in it or fall asleep, I deserve to be fired, unless you're warned and it's like a prickly chair. But again, wallpaper makes a world of difference. We flipped a wallpaper upside down to make it look like tree branches falling. This is how we do our work. You're probably familiar with this mess. These are all sample boards and fabrics, and we start with fabrics before we have furniture placement. We just use cubes. We call them Lego furniture until we've got them dressed up, and then we can think about what needs levity or heft.
Now, do you do this for every project?
Mm-hmm. This is kind of what stays in my head, and we also show our clients all these things on a digital page. And every time we're trying a new piece of furniture or a lamp or fabric, we drop it into the digital page so you can see its relationship to the whole room.
When you start a project, do you have pretty much in mind what you're going to be showing them ahead of time, or does it evolve?
It evolves. It's you find the corner pieces first, and you look for, it's just like a puzzle. And the corner pieces for me are usually the fabric pattern that has maybe 60% of the colors that are going to be in the room, and then we'll work out from that. Some people start with rugs. They're often the last thing I put in. I don't know why, but it's always the big fabric mess that helps me. This is some of our more, I would say, transitional work on the left. It's a library in DC, and then...
This is all the same hotel?
No, now we're moving into real
changed.
clients.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. So that's a townhouse in DC, and then on the right is a townhouse in New York City. I love an assemblage wall just because I love buying things in flea markets. This is the Yale Club in New York, which was very grand and masculine and it was all sort of burgundy and gold and navy when we started. We had to keep that, but change the dosing and try to make it feel a little bit more
What
light.
color were the walls before?
The walls were white before, and it was an enormous fight getting them to put this sort of aqua printed wallpaper. It looks like little, almost like a man's boxer shorts. But once we put the pattern up, because these are huge ceilings, the whole room just had a happier feeling. Otherwise, everything felt sort of shadowed and reflective. I also think when I'm in a room, I want to look pretty. And there are certain lighting and certain things that just don't bounce a sense of personal crisis at me. So wallpaper always helps, I think, make things feel more varied and accommodating. This is a much more modern entryway in a New York City apartment. This console table is actually something we're making now with Woodbridge. And the mirror above is with a line of mirrors I have from Mirror Image Home. So it's like really exciting to be able to take my private clients and to see what I found in the antique market or what I couldn't find, and then to try to add that to a licensed product line so it can become a tool for all of us. You can order it more than once, and you know the size, reliably.
Do you establish a separate budget for accessories?
Not really. I just keep I kind of call it a puddle in the end, where I'll tell them, you're going to need this much for planters, coffee table books, trays, throw blankets, all these things that you don't want to start with a line item because they'll probably walk away and be like, okay, this is way too expensive. You're nuts. But later you can say these are the bones, and then these are the spices and the salt and the pepper, and we're going to need it, but we'll just call it a number until we get there.
Now, what is the room on the right?
The room on the right is the same apartment. This is the home office.
You did a nice job of lighting.
Thank you. I always use distinctive lighting because I think of that as jewelry. And yes, we all need a pair of hoop earrings, but what's fun is when you have the jewelry that's only yours, and I feel that way about lighting. So this project is the weirdest and the most wonderful. This is Playa Grande. This is in the Dominican Republic, where a lot of it was vintage or made locally.
So you had to find local artisans?
Yes. I don't speak Spanish, so without the help of the local building team, I would have been useless. But there are a lot of great craftsmen in the Dominican Republic, and they're very patient. And I did a lot of the designs by wiggling and grabbing at things, make it curvy. And the guy would be like, oh, and I'm like, yeah. And that's how we got a lot of our. There's a story about that in the book. But this is a little girl's bedroom in New York City. This is a pool house at a Kentucky horse farm with the orange sofa. And this is a dining room in Park Avenue. And I think this might be the end of the slideshow. It is.
There you go.
There we go. So I'm going to let you.
Well, I know that Celerie has to run, so she can't hang around and party and play with us. You missed a good party last night, by the way.
I saw some pictures.
Whoops. Who's taking pictures? Anyway, it was a good time. Anyway, so she has to run. And what time? We're doing good with time. Do you mind if we take a couple of questions?
No, but I need to be
We're going to get you out the door. Don't worry.
moving at 12 because I don't even know where to find an Uber. This is the biggest building I've ever been in my life.
Well, it's a big building and people know where it is. So I think if you just call for an Uber, I think they'll know. So we'll take a couple of questions, just a couple from the floor. Anybody have any questions they want to ask Celerie?
What is the easiest way to transition from residential to commercial and how to attract the right clients?
Ooh, that's really hard. I don't think there is an easy way, because corporate budgets and the scrutiny involved, there are a lot of people who feel their neck is on the line. It's not just their home, it's, their job. I think working in smaller local establishments, I did a little bit of work for a jewelry store on Worth Avenue in Palm Beach, and for actually another vintage jewelry store too, and a hair salon, like little things where they're kind of owner operated. And then this isn't really fair because it probably doesn't translate to everybody, but in our business, our private home clients all belong to the same clubs. And so we began doing club work because people didn't want their club to look too different than the home and the life they wanted to share with their children and grandchildren. So kind of having an overwhelming, I would say, regional continuity helps make you known for work around there, and then that tips into restaurants and country clubs. The hotels were just like a gift from God. I think that was like press and the book, because the creative director who hired me had been given the book and was flipping through, and he was like, ooh, this person's interesting to me.
When you're doing a commercial job, do you find yourself getting tied up, however, for a long time and not being able to really devote much time to residential clients who don't take as much time?
No, residential clients take 10 times the time.
Oh, okay.
You have to be nice. You have to listen to them. You have to meet with them when they want to. You have to go to their house, and, you have to eat cookies. The corporate clients, they kind of just want things done,
Okay,
which I love. I appreciate their deadlines.
okay. Any other questions?
You said your projects take 6 to 9 months to build.
That's the fastest. That's like room ready to go.
But what about the design phase before they make the decision to go ahead?
That usually takes 3 months, if they're available and if they're quick and if they're trusting. It can take 6 months if we're also juggling bathroom selections and hardware and things that are going to go into like construction, because those end up taking up the front end of all the meetings, and you never get time to talk about the pretties, I call them. So it's a little bit different if we're also working with an architect or doing build work. But a year, it's really hard to turn out a house in less than a year.
How many projects do you typically work with at a time?
So I have a team of 6 designers in New York who I work with, and there's another group in Florida. But each of them tend to work on 2 to 3 projects a year. I mean, there's always some client who wants the baby room updated or a new guest bedroom dangling in the background. But I would say they each work on 2 to 3, which means for me they're about 15, because I try to come in and do the fun part or take the important meetings or be there to get yelled at. That's my job, and their job is to know exactly what's missing from a room and what the timelines are, and where the next monster is hiding under the bed.
Is your projects, are they typically entire homes, or do you do ever room at a time?
Usually it's at least 60% of a home. A lot of times we'll phase it because the budgets are just overwhelming and they wouldn't hire us unless we said, look, you can't do everything for what you want to spend, but we can help you prioritize.
Okay. I think a lot of people out here run into that same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is always to be honest and to say, I think over the next 5 years, if you want your house to be soup to nuts, you will spend this. But in the meantime, if we can take a bite out of what the front priorities are, we can do it at whatever your price point is. We'll just narrow the scope based on what we think you can do well, or we can do well for you.
We have time for one more question. Wow.
I love your use of color. Do you find clients scared of color, and how do you work with clients and embracing color?
Often they're scared of color. So that's where the boards help. And we'll try to show them what comes in what proportions. And if we can find one fabric they like, one that has 4 or 5 or 6 colors in it, then we can just start drawing it out from there. And, you know, the big yellow room, if I showed that to anyone in the beginning, they'd just be kind of like, I can't eat that. That looks gross. So you can get there, making the palette fit on the floor plan and on the fabrics, and then, you know, paint is the easiest and fastest, or wallpaper. I mean, to start a project, when I say fabric, I also mean wallpaper, because that's, again, it's a room in a box once you have those 2 elements to work with. You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a great job. Great stuff.
Thank you, and this is wonderful.
Good, I'm glad you enjoyed it. We've enjoyed it. Thank you.